Thank you, Mr. Williams, our press secretary. Let me, in my own way, welcome you, the members of the press, and to thank you for being here at our first press conference for 2010. As you are all aware, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party won 60% of the votes and some 75% of the seats on the island of St. Kitts in the last federal elections. In addition, we are very pleased that the Honorable Patrice Nisbet of the Nevis Reformation Party is now a member of our federal cabinet, serving in the capacity of Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs. International, regional, and local observers have viewed our elections favorably. CARICOM observers arrived at polling stations before they were opened. They witnessed the voting process throughout the day at all of the polling stations. They saw the closing of the polls, and they remained to witness the count as well. They have reported that voters, and I quote, were able to cast their ballots without intimidation or harassment, and that, I quote further, the voting and counting of ballots took place in a transparent manner with all, that is, local, regional, and international observers giving approval to the witness of the count, end of quote. Petitions and divisions, CARICOM observers noted, and I quote again, showed up at the polls even as it rained, in order to elect the government of their choice, end of quote. Also, the Organization of American States Observers, one was in every constituency on St. Kitts and in Nevis, reported that, and I quote, presiding officers, poll clerks, and party agents were present at their assigned sites and followed procedures diligently in accordance with election laws, and that sufficient electoral materials were available in all polling stations, and the secrecy of the ballot was maintained. They also reported that safeguards to avoid double voting and voter misrepresentation were in place, and that police were present in all of the polling sites efficiently and unobtrusively, maintaining security where citizens became agitated, end of quote. They further stated, and I quote here again, police and the St. Kitts Nevis Defense Force effectively and peacefully controlled these potentially volatile situations, end of quote. The Evangelical Association and the Industry of Chamber and Commerce and the Christian Council concluded in their own joint observer report that, and I quote here, it was generally agreed that the elections were conducted in a free and fair manner in most instances, end of quote. Validating my government's steady insistence that the electoral boundaries in this federation must be changed, the OAS is urging that, and I quote here again from the report, the boundary question be addressed as soon as possible, end of quote. The Secretary General of the OAS noted that the people of St. Kitts and Nevis exercise their civil responsibility, and I quote, in a free manner and in a calm and dignified atmosphere, end of quote. A fitting tribute to the people of our proud federation, St. Kitts and Nevis. The laws of the land require objections to the nomination process to be filed within some 21 days of the election, and not at the time of nomination. Labour candidates Dr. Norjan Wilson of constituency number 5 and Mr. Cedric Liebert of constituency number 8, St. Christopher 8, have therefore filed petitions in the High Court challenging the qualifications of PAM candidates, the Honourable Sean K. Richards of St. Christopher number 5 and the Honourable Eugene Hamilton of St. Christopher number 8 to have been nominated. And now, I must say, I go to the real work of governing the affairs of this country. Within a matter of weeks, there will be the throne speech at the opening of Parliament, as well as the presentation of the 2010 budget, fiscal year budget. The special emphasis of this government during this term on the heightened development of our people will be clear, with innovative policies both to develop the individual and to energize communities. This is because success in any area, that is agriculture, crime fighting, entrepreneurship, the arts, community health, all begin and end with the individual and with the community. Let me for a moment comment on economic diversification strategy, because this continues to be a priority of this government. We have therefore successfully completed negotiations on behalf of the OECS countries for the Libyan Investment Bank of the Eastern Caribbean to be based in St. Kitts and Nevis. The benefits of this to both the Federation and to the OECS are quite obvious. I should also perhaps add here that there are many ways to judge the degree of economic viability and vitality triggered by a government. One, for example, is owning one's own vehicle, since this dramatically expands one's employment and entrepreneurial options, while significantly increasing the convenience and the ease involved in matters pertaining to both health and safety as well as recreation. So maybe in passing I should say that the number of vehicle registrations in St. Kitts and Nevis in 1995 was some 9,200. But by December of 2008, this number had grown to some 21,500. A very interesting indicator of the expanded options delivered by the policies of the Labour government. We continue to be a leading competitor in the area of tourism. Our tourism team just recently participated in the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association Caribbean Marketplace in San Juan, where they were able to effectively advance our sector's interests. And the first quarter of this year, for example, we shall have a second British Airways direct flight from London Gatwick, in addition to the daily American airline flights from Miami and the twice-weekly American airline flights from JFK in New York and the USA Airways flights from Philadelphia and South Carolina. Despite the economic downturn, cruise arrivals here are set to increase some 18% in the 2009 and 2010 season. I must emphasize that the St. Kitts and Nevis collaborative approach to crime fighting continues. In fact, it was with the Honourable Premier Parry of Nevis that the national security teams of both islands and I met in Nevis on January the 12th of this year. In addition, collaborative approach with the international community also continues, with members of our Defense Force having recently met with their U.S. national security counterparts in Barbados in order to agree upon the strategic areas of emphasis and training which our forces will be pursuing in the United States over the next year.